Well, hello there, and welcome to episode 18 of The Eagle's Nest, the audio retelling of the book Soaring with the Eagles, the Copper Peak Story by Charles Supersinski. And so in our last episode, we're talking about the dream of keeping a large ski-flying hill, namely Copper Peak, alive over the time period of, maybe 1964 to 1970, and it actually became a reality. But now we're back to the time of 1964 to 1975 when, wouldn't you know it, 1963, that Wolverine Hill had blown down in a big windstorm again. And things were kind of idle in the ski jumping world, even though Copper Peak was being submitted to the federal government for funding and things were looking good. I think the people that were promoters of ski jumping in the area realized that there was a historical momentum that was present as far as bringing up new skiers, keeping the youngsters interested in the sport of ski jumping and honing their skills, so by the time that they reached adulthood, they would have the skills good enough to jump on a very large hill, or perhaps and hopefully at the ski flying hill in Copper Peak. So let's take a look back now at the idea that came up among enthusiasts of ski jumping was to rebuild the hill at Wolverine, but on a scaled-down version. The windstorm in April of '63, which felled the Wolverine Hill scaffold, left a tangled pile of timbers and boards. Besides the destruction of the slide, the wooden knoll had also been leveled, and truthfully, it was an unsightly mess. After a year in which the Wolverine Hill site was idle, a latent interest in reviving the sport emerged among some of the old-timers to the sport and some newcomers, including some youngsters. During the summer and fall of 1964, a number of those interested individuals got together to attempt to reconstruct a scaled-down version of Wolverine Hill from the timbers and boards remaining from the old slide. The loosely knit group was spearheaded by none other than the author of this book, Charlie Supersinski, and also by Walter Coos, Bob Shea, Dan Bull, Russ Johnson, after this he'll be known as Bud Johnson, Frank Pribble, and a number of others who assisted periodically. The debris pile was untangled and the usable timbers and boards were utilized to build the in-run curve and takeoff. It would be much lower to the hillside and the in-run would have a natural start of the upper hill. The rebuilt structure, being quite crude, was not the most satisfactory as the takeoff section was extremely long and did not meet the hill design standards of the day. But the hill would allow jumps up to about 150 feet, and it gave those individuals interested in the sport an opportunity to practice their trade on a hill sufficiently large to develop their skills to become an accomplished ski jumper. Work was completed on the scaled-down hill in time to permit training for the 64-65 season. Bud Johnson claims to have taken the first ride off the hill. With a lot of new snow on the upper slide, he approached the takeoff with less than adequate speed to clear the knoll. Upon hitting the knoll, he bounced and went cartwheeling down the landing slope. But, not disillusioned by the experience, he and a number of other skiers took a lot of practice jumps that day. Even though the scaled-down version of Wolverine Hill did not allow the distances formerly achieved on the hill, it always rode comparable to a larger hill. This was because of the consistent and prevailing headwinds coming from the northwest, the direction in which the hill faced. In spite of its limitations, the hill proved to be a good training facility for ski jumpers. The area, however, lacked a good smaller hill in which skiers could learn their skills in order to be able to transition to the larger Wolverine Hill. On March 14, 1965, 21 local skiers, some newcomers and some old-timers, assembled for a fun competition at Wolverine Hill. No results were recorded, but Dave Berlin set a new hill record of 151 feet. The ski jumping sport was about to have a new beginning. And 1966 was the year of the second tourney at Wolverine. An increasing number of youngsters were beginning to show an interest in ski jumping and began to use the scaled-down version of Wolverine Hill. By the time of the second local meet set for Sunday, March 13th, 1966, a total of 28 skiers had planned to compete, 17 senior riders and 9 juniors. No admission was charged, but donations were accepted to be used to further develop the junior jumping program and the facility. If you want to see who it was that went off the jump there in that year of 66, Charlie's book has an appendix and has all the entries in it. Economically, the Gogebic Range was in trouble as the last operating iron ore mine, the Peterson Mine in Bessemer, closed, sending several hundred miners into the ranks of the unemployed. The rapid succession of mine closing had set the unemployment levels to nearly 20%. All area mines were deep, underground operations, and simply could not compete with the large open-pit mines being developed throughout the world. And I think it's nice to note again that the mining era had lasted some 82 years. The iron ore from the mines of the Lake Superior Basin built the skyscrapers, bridges, and highways of the country. It also helped this nation win 2 world wars. Many of the unemployed miners were able to find work at the recently opened copper mine in White Pine, Michigan, located 50 miles to the east. Others moved to work in the mines located out west. The local economy was in serious trouble. There were some good things happening on the Gogebic Range. Indian Head Ski Resort, the first of the new generation of downhill ski areas, opened its doors in 1961, and several years later, followed by Powderhorn Ski Resort. These resorts began attracting many visitors as recreational downhill skiing was on the upswing in the early 1960s. The Copper Peak project continued to move forward with the successful completion of the $46,000 fund drive in 1965, and the Gogebic Range Ski Corporation was preparing to call for bids on the project. Snowmobiling was becoming increasingly popular throughout the area as the cost of machines became more affordable. 1967 saw more improvements to Wolverine. A small scaffold had been erected on the upper hill to give greater in-run speeds and to allow longer jumps. The hill in many respects compared well with the hill utilized in the first competition of the ski club in 1936. A second improvement was the removal of the rock knoll. With the assistance of rock miners like Mike Andraschi, a 30-foot section of the basaltic knoll tapered on both ends and nearly 3 feet deep in the center was drilled and blasted off the landing slope. It took some time to remove the rock. Later, additional soil was added to the landing hill to effectively flatten it a little, thus decreasing the amount of snow needed to be added when preparing the hill. With the improvements to Wolverine Hill, the promoters of the sport decided to hold an unsanctioned invitational competition on March 19, 1967. Invitations were extended to Duluth and Ishpeming. With some 35 riders participating, the meet was held under ideal weather conditions. Dr. Don Hurst of Ishpeming set a new hill record of 161 feet, winning the senior class. Ron Weimery of Duluth, formerly of Ironwood, placed second, followed by Bob Carley and Dave Berlin. Jim Gustafson of Ironwood won the junior class, followed by 12-year-old Terry Kern of Duluth, who would later become one of the top competitors in the country. A special junior class competition for youngsters under age 12 was held on the smaller hill east of the main slide. The Carley brothers, Bob and Larry, placed first and second, with the cousins, Mike and Dennis, copying third and fourth. Enthusiasm for the sport continued to grow, with the increasing number of youngsters showing an interest. This prompted organizers of the ski jumping activities at Wolverine to consider building a smaller, transitional hill closer to Ironwood, perhaps in the caves area, making it easier for youngsters to get to the site. Meanwhile, the revised application of the Gogebic Range Ski Corporation to the ADA for additional funding of the Copper Peak project moved at a snail's pace during 1967. Local supporters and civic groups continued their efforts to exert additional political support for the project without much success. Hopes to have the project funded remained high, however. 21 local skiers participated in 2 classes at the 4th annual meet on the scaled-down Wolverine Hill on March 14, 1968. While no results were available, it was a fun competition for locals that no admission was charged, but donations were accepted. This would prove to be the last competition on the scaled-down Wolverine Hill. It was in June of 1968 that the Gogebic Range Ski Corporation finally received word that the Copper Peak project was finally approved by the EDA. The board will continue to concentrate its efforts on Copper Peak, and there were a lot of tasks remaining before construction could begin. But other plans were in the making. The need for a smaller jumping hill and the reality that the Wolverine Hill in its present form did not conform to the hill design standards of the day prompted the committee overseeing the jumping program at Wolverine to consider, the possibility of building a new slide in the cave located near downtown Ironwood. First, such a hill could be built to be more closely reflecting the standards of ski hill design currently in practice, and secondly, it would be much more accessible to youngsters living in Ironwood. In anticipation of the completion of the new ski jumping hill in the caves, and with the presently available facilities for cross-country, downhill, and slalom racing available in the area, the Gogebic Range JCs announced that they had received the bid to play host to the annual State Junior Ski Tournament early next year. This is the first state meet ever to be staged by an Ironwood sponsor, and it will consist of competition in the 2 standard Nordic events of jumping and cross-country, along with the regular alpine events of downhill and slalom races. So, in 1968, construction of the new hill in the caves commenced in the early fall. The hill had been designed by our own Charlie Suprasinski and approved by the Central United States Ski Association. The 30-meter slide would consist of a scaffold approximately 25 feet high with an all-natural in-run curve and takeoff. In designing the scaffold, 35-foot utility poles were utilized. The local power company assisted in digging the holes in which the poles were canted inward some 15 degrees to ensure stability. Timbers and lumber for the decking were donated by a local sawmill. Bulldozing services were provided by Globe Ready Mix and the Ironwood National Guard to help shape the landing and outrun area. Assisting in the construction were members of the junior jumping program of GRSC, headed by Wally Coos, and members of the JCs. Adjacent to the 30-meter hill would be an all-natural 15-meter hill. Since the hills were in the caves, a natural bowl, skiers could simply ski back to the foot of the landing. The jumping facilities in the caves would ultimately be called the Iron Bowl. The local club sponsored their first invitational meet at the Iron Bowl on Sunday, February 23, 1969. 2 classes participated, junior and senior, Ishpeming sent a strong delegation of jumpers and brought a number of stars from years past to ride in exhibition. While no results are available, the occasion was momentous as the area inaugurated a good junior training hill complex. If you look at the picture of the Iron Bowl as presented, showing the Iron Bowl facing in a northerly direction, and this is in the caves, and it would be immediately south of what is now Pioneer Park Apartments and the Little League field. And looking across to the south, you'll see the scaffold. And to the left of that would be where the old big mining site stockpile was. And that stockpile was really huge. And I remember that some of the moms used to yell at their kids because they slid down those stockpiles with their brand new tenors and their new jeans on, and with lots and lots of iron ore in them. They were basically very used blue jeans when they got to the bottom of it. Bud Johnson had mentioned that the trail that the Iron Bowl was built on basically was a shortcut for most kids that lived in Norrie location to walk to school, one of the high schools, either St. Ambrose High School or the L.L. Wright High School. It was a straight shot from south to north and more or less a shortcut. The girls didn't use it very often because that trail was all iron ore, and if you had brand new saddle shoes, if you remember those, they were the black and white or brown and white shoes that the girls used to wear, and they would get pretty red by the time they got across there. Anyway, on March 3rd, 1969, Gene Kutlarek, there's a familiar name, a head coach of the U.S. ski team, headed a coaching clinic for junior skiers at the Iron Bowl. The Ironwood City Ski Jumping Championships were set for Sunday, March 23, 1969 at the Iron Bowl. A number of Ishpeming skiers participated but did not count in the running for the city title. Skiing under extremely warm conditions, which cut the distances, Jim Packmeyer won top honors in the junior class, and Jim Gustafson claimed the city title in the senior division. 1970 saw new life in the jumping program with 1 year of success at the Iron Bowl, and with the first ski flying meet about to take place at Copper Peak, an air of optimism traversed the local ski jumping community. The new facilities in the Iron Bowl was attracting increasing numbers of new ski jumpers to the sports. Plans were emerging to send both junior and senior skiers to numerous tournaments during the year. To start the season, John Coos and Jim Gustafson participated in a training camp on Madison's new plasticized hill on October 12, 1969. The two Ironwood skiers were invited as part of a group of 30 promising U.S. ski jumping team candidates and will be working alongside with 10 members of the U.S. ski team. Ironwood sent 5 skiers to compete at Wisconsin Rapids on January 4, 1970. Russ Anderson, John Coos, Jim Gustafson, Gene Harma, and Dave Engstrom. The Wisconsin Rapids meet is the opener in a series of 4 meets from which the U.S. Ski Association Classification Committee will select U.S. jumpers eligible to compete in ski flying competitions. All 5 of these jumpers had expressed strong desire to qualify for the ski flying event set for Copper Peak on February 27th and 28th and March 1st, 1970. While hopes were high, time would show that none of the Gogebic Range skiers would qualify for the inaugural ski flying event at Copper Peak. It would take another 8 years before 2 of these skiers, John Coos and Dave Engstrom, would have the opportunity to challenge the big hill, Copper Peak. In an effort to upgrade the facilities in the Iron Bowl, the Gogebic Range Junior Ski Club added lights during the fall of 1971. With the darkness falling at about 4:30 p.m. in mid-January, little opportunity existed to practice at times other than the weekends. The Junior Ski Club hopes the new lights help generate a bigger interest in ski jumping programs this season. Co-advisors of the Gogebic Range Junior Ski Club are Charlie Supersinski, Wally Coos, and Bob Shea. 1972 saw the first female ski jumper. In the first meet of the season at the Iron Bowl on January 30th, Ironwood skiers won 3 of the top 6 places in Junior Class 1, with Mike Coos earning 3rd, Joe Kukunski 5th, and Bart Doman 6th. Bruce Harma captured first place in Class 3, while Craig Savanen won top honors in Class 4. Skiers from Ishpeming and Iron Mountain dominated the event. Also, Therese Altabelli of Iron Mountain made her first appearance in Ironwood, placing 5th in Class 4. Her appearance at the Iron Bowl was the first of several over the next few years. A long, successful career in ski jumping would eventually land her in the National Ski Hall of Fame. After a hiatus of 2 years, the Gogebic Range Ski Club was able to successfully host a ski flying event at Copper Peak. Many new faces joined the Copper Peak board, including a number of members from the junior division. Wally Coos, who had been on the board for a number of years and was active in the junior program, was elected president of the GRSC at their annual meeting in April of 1972. His great leadership and knowledge of ski hill preparation led to the successful flying events. It would be the first of 4 consecutive years of ski flying at Copper Peak. With the change in leadership, greater emphasis by the ski club board would be placed on the development of the junior program. By 1974, the talents of the young skiers were emerging. The club sponsored the 3rd ski flying meet at Copper Peak under the presidency of John Lofberg in 1974. Hill preparation for both 73 and 74 was under the leadership of Wally Coos and Bob Shea, who spent countless volunteer hours preparing the hill for the meets. Their many years of experience garnered in preparing hills for the junior program enabled the ski club to successfully sponsor the 2 flying events. At the annual meeting of the Gogebic Range Ski Corporation in April of 1974, Charlie Supersinski was elected president. A 3rd flying event was planned for February of 1975. Discussions steered by promoters of the jumping program were also in the works to enhance the Copper Peak facilities with a cross-country trail as well as a 55-meter training hill. The newly elected president enlisted the services of Roger Pacuri to lay out a cross-country ski trail on the nearly 300 acres of the Copper Peak facility. The author also personally identified a location for the construction of a 55-meter hill on the northeast slope of the hill. These preliminary steps were a prelude to the eventual development of the new Wolverine Hill in the summer of 1975. 1975, though, was the last season at the Iron Bowl. The 75 season commenced with an invitational junior meet at the Iron Bowl on Sunday, January 19th of 75. While skiers from Iron Mountain dominated the event, several Ironwood area junior skiers ranked high, including Bob Coos, 2nd in Class 1, John Kimball, 3rd in Class 1, Craig Savanen, 3rd in Class 2, and Cliff Nyman, 8th in Class 3. Teresa Altabelli of Iron Mountain, the only girl to compete, placed 2nd in Class 2. Bob Coos tied for the longest standing leap of 95 feet. 2 weeks later at Iron Mountain's 55-meter bulldozer hill, 4 members of the junior club placed high. Bruce Harma took first, Barry Pribble captured third, and Bob Coos finished fifth, all in Class 1. In Class 2, Craig Savinen placed third. All four skiers were scheduled to compete at the tryouts for the National Junior Championships in Ishpeming on February 8th and 9th, 1975. At the tryouts in Ishpeming, Bruce Harma and Barry Pribble respectively placed 5th and 12th to qualify for the Junior National Championship set for February 22nd and 23rd in Minneapolis. Both skiers bested the hill record of 148 feet in a strong field of 120 competitors. In what would prove to be the last City of Ironwood ski jumping championship at the Iron Bowl, John Coos repeated as city champion in the senior class, age 17 and older. He was followed by Bruce Harma and Barry Pribble. Craig Savinen captured first in the junior class, age 16 and under, followed by John Verbus and Clifford Nyman, both of Bessemer. A total of 10 skiers participated in the senior group and 7 in the junior class. A number of members of the Gogebic Range Ski Corporation Board were building the case for the organization to build a larger 50 to 55 meter hill at the Copper Peak site or the Wolverine site. It would take a concerted effort for the promoters of the sport to build a slide which would serve as a training site for young jumpers. And so now it looks like time has flown by us again. So this is your narrator, Dan McManaman, inviting you to join us again for the next episode of The Eagle's Nest, and we'll be talking about the ski flying years, 1970 to 75. The best way to see and hear us is to go to the YouTube app on your smart TV or on your phone and search Copper Peak Eagle's Nest. All the episodes are there all the time, and the episodes are numbered sequentially. Also, you can find us on the Copper Peak streaming site by using social media sites like Google or Yahoo and using the search term Copper Peak. Episodes play on the half hour. We're also on Copper Peak Radio 102.1 FM at 6:08 a.m. and p.m. and 11:08 a.m. and p.m. Central Time. Charlie's book, Soaring with the Eagles, The Copper Peak Story, is available at the Depot and the Downtown Art Place in Ironwood. Once again, thanks for joining us here on the Eagle's Nest, and we'll see you next time, and think Copper Peak.